Good evening and welcome. I'm Diane Meyerhoff, host for tonight's discussion of the school budget for the city of Winooski. Tonight's show is being aired live on Channel 17 and streamed live on the Channel 17 website. We welcome your comments and questions. Please join the conversation at 862-3966. Tonight, I am joined by Mike Decarreau, the school board president, and Sean McMannon, the school superintendent. Thank you both so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you
we
for having us.
appreciate it. Great. So tell us what do voters and viewers need to know about the upcoming school district budget?
Well, I think the starting point is the place that we always start. And Sean, you do a great job with the end statement here. So if you can kick that off as our starting point.
Yeah, so what we start with during the budget cycle is our end statement, which was developed by our community members. And the budget is a representation of the work that we do each and every day to help our students fulfill this end statement. So making sure that they're college and career ready, they're healthy, productive, and successful students, and that they engage with their local and global community. So we try to really stress in our budget meetings that while this comes down to a bottom line for a lot of people, it should be meaningful to people to understand what those dollars are dedicated to doing for our students. And some of the things, proficiency-based graduation and learning is a hot topic these days in Vermont, and we've been one of the leaders across the state in this. And so our graduate expectations of critical thinking, communication, creativity, and so forth, our students and our high school teachers in particular, but middle school as well, have been really working hard on the proficiency-based learning environment and doing some great things. And these are just some of the areas that they are working in becoming proficient, always working on communication through writing and speaking, and then you can see some more science-based areas, as well as financial literacy, that we have one of the best programs in the state, and our students each year will win business plan awards and entrepreneurship awards through the guidance of Courtney Paquette, our wonderful business teacher.
That's an impressive list. I just want to mention that.
Yeah,
That is quite a big list.
Students are doing a lot, and what's really important about that is that many of these disciplines are being threaded together, and our students are learning that beginning in elementary school. So through project-based learning, some of our fourth graders right now are working with our construction management team and some engineers from REARC and working on learning about renewable and non-renewable energies and developing their own models of renewable energy as we head into a really important capital project.
Wow, and that's just a little teaser for what we're going to talk about later.
Right. Yes. Right. So some of the things, we break this down and we talk in the budget cycle, and we talk each month with the board about all the exciting things that are happening on a monthly basis. But some of the areas that we've really worked on in college and career readiness are literacy, math instruction, and as I said, project-based learning, and now expeditionary learning in the middle school, so that students are learning these proficiency-based skills from kindergarten all the way through graduation in a variety of ways. Making sure that our students are healthy, productive, and successful. We know that it is really important to have a great foundation through nutrition and through health for our students so that they're ready to learn. And so you can see some of the things listed there that we do to support those needs to make sure that students can fulfill their potential. And then finally, local and global community engagement. And we have many of our high school students that are working in the community with a lot of our community organizations, whether it's Waterworks or doing working with Misery Loves Company and the chef competition, the Iron Chef competition, or working with UVM and St. Michael's sports teams. We have great connections in the community.
So those are the things we try to keep in mind as we set the budget. Obviously, it's a very large list, so that the staff does a great job in spreading these things around for us to ensure that we get to all the kids. Current enrollment this year, 833 kids. We have a pretty good bonus with English language learners and for equalized pupil counts go significantly higher than this. So that helps a great deal in the budgeting as well. So when we look at this year, we really look at two different things. Early on in a budget cycle, the only thing we can really control is our spending. We have no early control in what we're going to get from the state, what kind of funding we're going to get. We get some balancing pieces, but there's two critical pieces, our equalized pupil counts and the CLA, which is a common level of appraisal. And given that a lot of the education funding is based on property values, and the CLA is a reference point to the selling price against the appraisal values. So how to say this exactly, but fortunately, in Winooski, the house market is pretty hot and houses are selling pretty well. So that drives the CLA down, which is not a positive in the education funding formula. So we worked with almost a 5-point reduction in the CLA this year, and that translates about 1 percentage point in the tax rate for each point drop, 1.1. So that was a pretty significant a change that we had to work with. So being that this is the first year in our capital project funding, we'll actually bond this year for the first time. In our spending increases, we have 5.6% increase in spending. And out of that 5.6 million, 900,000 of that is to the capital project. So 90% of the spending increase is going toward the capital piece. Salaries and benefits and everything else in the budget is only 10% change. Yeah. So that 0.6, so the 900,000 represents about 5% of that. The total rest of the spending is just over 0.5%. So we spent a lot of time debating what did we really need, where did we have anything extra, where could we take small cuts that wouldn't hurt as much, and we came down to this very, very, very tight budget at a 5.6% spending increase. So that gave us now a base from which to put all the funding formula pieces together. We like to look at this piece, actually we don't like to look at this piece, but what this really says is on the far right column, the education spending rank. This is the spending per equalized pupil according to those, as we rank in everybody in the state. Okay. So we've been consistently in the bottom quartile. In spending per equalized student. Now, in Winooski, we have some fun challenges in the education model that it's not just a deliver to the, one type of student. We have a broad range of students, a broad range of backgrounds. Couldn't be prouder of the way the staff handles that whole range in the classroom, but they do it. And so with that, we've tried to bring this up, but you got to balance the community's ability to take care of that as well. So our population, 62% free and reduced lunch, 40% English language learners. I think that might even approach 50% in the high school, depending on the year. And 23% of the kids meet the eligibility support due to a disability. So with the top two, we get the equalized student bump because it's recognized that that is a more expensive, a more time-consuming education model. So with that then, when I usually start this, try to start at the back end because usually the question is how much is this going to impact my taxes, right? So where we...
You want to start with that one?
Yep, no, we'll start right here. So how does this affect my taxes really depends on household income. That is the funding model in the state. And if income taxes, we got a matrix here in a minute to show the difference. But if household income is below $99,000, then the education tax is based on income. And we'll be moving to a 2.37% tax rate in FY21. If income is between 99 and 138,250, it's a mixture between income and property value, and above 138,250, your education tax is based purely on property. So given that, then our increases, let's go down one more then. So beyond this, so from a tax rate perspective, the difference, what we did here is for household incomes on the left between 47 and 99,000, the third column, the difference of the year, the increase will be in that third column difference by year. It'll be anywhere from $14 to $30.
So that's the difference that will happen in FY21 for basically the range is between $14 and $30.
Increase for household incomes below 99,000.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
So when your taxes are based purely on income, that's the increase. We also have a caveat here that we got to make sure that folks in town, because I think almost 2/3 of the folks in town are okay with the property tax credits that you can get for the income sensitivity.
Okay. So
that's
what
a
is the
key
percentage
piece.
of folks who are above making a household income above 99%? Is that a pretty small number?
It's somewhere in that third range.
Third, okay.
2/3, I think, are income. Last time we checked, 2/3 are income sensitive. So that would leave a third that are somewhere above that.
Okay. Okay.
So if household incomes are above the 138,250, then everything is based on income. And you can see here what we've done is on the left-hand column, the household income, household value, 150 in increments of 25K up to 300,000. The difference per year in the taxes will be in that column difference per year. It'll go from 181 to 362.
Okay.
The important thing to know in that is there's no assumption of property tax credit in that 180 to 360. So people who are in between income of 99,000 and 138, they are eligible for some property tax credit, so those numbers could go down. They just have to submit the proper forms and make sure that they put everything on time so that they're eligible for that credit.
And modeling that category between 99 and 138,250 is a tough one to do. So we didn't. If you go up the other way, Sean, just for a second. So one more. There we go. So here is a look at the operating budget from FY20 to FY21. It's essentially 18 million to 19 million. That's the $1 million increase that we talked about, being 5.61%. For the equalized pupil count, it went down marginally, 10 students from a equalized pupil count. And then the other piece that we'll see is the education spending per equalized pupil. This went up 3.6% from 15,300 to 15,850. And again, the increase here is based on the capital project having a 5% piece and the 0.61 in everything else. So
Yet
try
another
to
teaser for that capital project.
keep things going. Yes.
Okay.
We'll get to that here shortly. And then the other piece that we really like to make sure that people understand is when we vote, that one of them is for the local budget. And that we just went through at the $19 million, 5.6% spending increase, 7.4% tax rate increase. But the other piece that folks have to vote on is whether to accept federal funds for mandatory programs by the feds. So this issue here is always one that I am concerned that we will not say yes to, because it's just, you have to have a vote to accept the monies from the federal government for the programs that they ask you to do. So we ask folks to vote yes on that one because it's giving you the money for doing the programs you're being asked to do.
And is that that's a separate ballot item?
It is a separate
own
ballot,
item.
yeah.
And generally it is passed though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because it's worded in such a way that it's pretty obvious what you're asked. It's not sort of convoluted.
It's worded in a way that you are accepting, you're giving the school district, the Board of Trustees, the ability to accept this money from the federal government.
Okay, good.
So then, again, the only other piece here we have is how can I help myself in this piece, and that is essentially filling out the tax, property tax rebate forms.
And I don't know what the tax department says. Do most people fill it out? I mean, is this a big issue that people are unaware, or?
I don't know if
No,
I haven't
okay.
not seen any percentages of that. I would suspect that there are people who do not.
Yeah.
But I mean, we do the best that we can every year to highlight this in our budget flyer, in our monthly newsletters. It's on our website, and I know many, if not all of the districts do that across the state so that people know about it.
Yeah. I know sometimes there's an issue, there's a timing issue. Sometimes people don't get it. There's a drop dead date. And I know that if you don't make that literally, don't even bother, they won't accept it. So I think I've heard people have issues with that they put the wrong form in, and then by the time they get the letter saying you have to do something else, it's too late.
Right.
So I've heard of those little kind of slip between the cracks. But
Try to make a point of making a note of it.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
the-
Keep
that's
educating
the
folks
key
about it.
piece.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's just a couple of caveats with this whole thing. One of the pieces that always has interested me, I've done this for, this is I think my 9th pass through a budget. The thing that, we start the budget process in November. We don't have our equalized pupil counts. We don't have the CLA numbers. And we've got the number they give us for the state, 10,985 is what?
The yield.
The yield.
Yep.
They give us a number to start planning with,
Yeah.
but that's not finalized until May, when the legislative session gets done and the books all get lined up. So, we can only look early on right at our own spending, and we can't focus on anything outside of that until we get some of these other numbers firmed up. And so these are really subject to change. Both the property value yield and the income yields can change at the last minute and put changes in this.
And they do, yes?
They do.
Experiences they do.
Yeah, they do, because basically what's happening is all of the school districts are coming in with their budgets, and then at the state level, they kind of gather all of that together,
Right.
and then they equalize a tax rate and disseminate that back out. So that usually doesn't happen until late spring, early summer.
One of the things I think I've found, though, is with the yield number, they've tried to be conservative up front so that it can only go up rather than spending a lot of time going way down and having that be a surprise. So the caveats to this is subject to change and without
Right.
notice until the legislative session is finished. And having people fill out the forms for the property tax rebate are a big deal.
Okay.
So those are the real key points that we've got here.
Good. And is it time for the teaser?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. This is the big reveal?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's a
Well,
big
it's-
reveal.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, it's
That's
been
really just for
revealed
me.
over
Yes.
and over for quite a long time, but we're really excited about our capital project. And last May, the voters of Winooski passed a bond up to $57.8 million.
Say that again. How much?
$57.8 million.
Thank you.
And about $25 million of that is for infrastructure, like heating, ventilation, air conditioning. It's for air handlers. It's to update. It's for a roof. It's things that we would absolutely have to do in the next 1 to 5 years anyway. And then the other half is to, most of that half is to modernize the building, bring it up to snuff with our programming that has been growing for the last 7 or 8 years and moving in a great direction, and provide learning spaces for our students and for our staff. Right now, as we've grown support services over the last 6 or 7 years for our students, we are running out of spaces to put people in. And young children are having to walk all the way across the other building just to find a quiet space to get speech language services, for example. So we worked with Truex Collins out of Burlington, our architects, and then we went through a process, and the board approved REARC as our construction management team. We have Tom Barden as our owner project manager, who is the most experienced owner project manager on school construction projects in the state of Vermont. And we've been working really hard since last May, and we're ready to get shovels in the ground this June. As soon as school is out. Well, that's one of the tricky parts about school construction,
Right.
is you still got to run a school and open your doors for 175 at least days a year. And so the construction folks really want to get in there as quickly as possible and have it to themselves as much as they can to get through their work. So we've been working on logistics plans and phasing plans and moving plans and getting all of that in order so that this is as smooth as possible.
And how long will this take?
It's scheduled to take just about 2 years.
Okay, so you'll be moving the students back and forth and around, and is it an expansion as well, or just with the current footprint?
So it's both.
Okay.
So we have some new, really exciting new construction spaces. We're going to have a new middle school. It'll be a pod design, so all the classrooms will be connected. It'll be very collaborative. It'll meet the needs of our expeditionary learning that we've been doing the last couple of years. It'll have all of the support services like English language learning, special education, literacy, and math. All of that will be included in the pod, so those can be delivered right there. Teams of teachers working with teams of students. Another is we'll have a new gym. Right now we are really having problems meeting the needs of particularly our elementary PE needs over the course of the week. And also we right now have a gymateria. So we use it for a gym in the morning for an hour and a half or two, and then we turn it into a cafeteria. And then we turn it back into a gym for the last hour or two. So we will have a dedicated cafeteria and a second gym, which will allow for just a multitude of opportunities, not only for our own students in our community, but it will also allow us to create some revenue streams, to bring some money into the school by having additional activities in the evenings where we can charge for people to come in. And use spaces.
Where is the middle school going?
So the middle school is going on the side of the building. So as you're looking at the school, it's around to the left of the building where the middle high school is now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we're going to be bumping out the front of the building and we're creating kind of the community entryway with all of the services will be right there. Right now our administrative offices are my office is in the back, the middle and high school and elementaries are on the opposite ends of the building. We have a tiny little nurse's office kind of in the center. We're going to bring all of that to the center of the building, which makes it really accessible, particularly for parents coming in when they need to access those resources, and including our cultural liaisons who will be located there instead of way deep in the elementary, so where it's hard to find.
And I think the big piece about moving all the services and the administrative staff, the liaisons, nurses station, all to the front door. Right now, in order for folks to get there, they have to walk through the building. And so now you've got a lot of people walking around a lot of different places in the building. You don't necessarily want that from a safety standpoint. You want to have that pretty well confined as much as you can. So that was one of the other driving factors for putting all the services in one area.
Another really exciting part of it is that we've heard a lot from the community is preschool capacity. So we have a wait list of 40 to 50 preschool eligible children in the city, and who may not have the access or the ability to go to programs in other cities. And so we have 2 classrooms right now, and we offer half-day programs, which sometimes makes it hard for parents who work full-time. So we want to be able to offer a menu of options, full day, half day, pre and post care for students. And so we're in the project, we're going to have a preschool pod. We'll have 4 classrooms.
So we'll double your capacity.
So we'll double our capacity and be able to meet the needs, which a lot of families are really excited about.
And I bet you wish it could all be done in 6 months.
With as little disruption as possible, yes. I think that's one of the pieces with REARC that they've concentrated on very significantly, and one of the pieces that did impress us. They spent a lot of time on minimizing the impact to the students and the staff.
Which can't be easy, right? There's only so much. Do they actually start building the new spaces first? Is that partly how you do it?
So what's going to happen is they'll start staging in probably mid-May, early June, putting fencing up around all the construction areas and so forth. And then as soon as everybody's out, they will start, they'll have kind of 2 crews, and they'll be working on the new construction, the middle school, the gym, and the elementary, kind of on the outside of the building, and putting the foundation down and building from there. And then they'll have another crew who's going to be really focused on the elementary, because we wanted to impact the youngest kids as little as possible. So they're going to go in there and gut the elementary, almost all of it, and redo that entire thing, so that come end of August, beginning of September, we can get elementary students and teachers back in to the elementary. And it won't be completely finished, so some of them will go to spaces that will not be their final destination, so they'll have to move once or twice before getting into their landing spots.
Sounds like a very busy couple of years.
Among running the rest of the school as well, yes.
Right.
So.
Trying to figure out where your office actually is, right?
Yeah.
Well, some people are be able to move their offices out of closets and very, very tight spaces.
Yeah.
Our latest hire has a booth in the library.
Oh, boy.
That was the last place available. So
Okay.
this will do a lot toward getting the space we need to get the staff to be able to do what they need to do.
And I didn't ask, I should ask before, but when we were talking about number of students, is this something that is actually in Winooski rising, which we know is not happening in other parts of the state?
Right. So we a few years ago, our demographics were showing that we were going to be around 1,100 by 2027.
Okay.
And right now, we're in the school, we're at about 850 or so. So since then, because of federal immigration policy has changed, particularly refugee resettlement has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
We've seen that flatten out a bit. But we're not building a facility for next year or for 4 years. We're building it for the next 30 to 50 years. So we expect that those in the near future would go back to normal rates, which would again give us that trend line back to 1,100.
Okay.
And that trend line, we looked at that seriously back in 2009, 2010. As we move forward, and the projections then were about 10 a year increase as we go through time. So it wasn't a huge number, but it was enough to show that we were growing, and we were pretty close to that range. So this current lull, we believe, is going to kick back, depending on a lot of factors.
Yeah, yeah.
So
before we talk about voting, because we know that's really important, just give me a couple of sentence sort of summary about what people will be voting for in terms of the school budget come March 3rd. Because we talked about capital, and I'm not sure I want to kind of bring it all together and say this is what you're voting on.
Yep. So the vote will be for a $19 million budget. It will be a 7.4% increase in the tax rate, which is a 5.61% increase in the spending. What we found over time is there is very little in the education funding formula, very little relationship between your spending increase and your tax rate increase because of the other factors that go in. 90% of the increase, 90% of that 5.61% increase is going to service for the capital project, first bond approach, and a very, very tight budget on everything else for this first year.
One thing I wanted to add to that is we had a lot of community engagement during the budget cycle around transportation of students.
Okay.
And so also what is included in this budget is about $85,000 or $90,000 so that we can expand our service to 80 to 90 days of student transportation to and from school. Right now we're doing winter transportation for about 60 to 70 days, only to school in the morning. And so there was, our community really came out and they voiced the need for various reasons, safety, parents working, weather, and so forth, that they would really advocate for bringing kids home as well during the winter.
Okay.
So the board was we were able to meet that need.
Bus system, right?
Yep.
Bus system. And is that something, do you all do that yourselves, or do you contract with someone for that?
Contract.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, great. All right, well, I think we can just about wrap up here. I see you have a slide about voting, so please bring that on up. I know we talked about it earlier, but never a bad idea to remind folks.
So a couple of other things here. We have a community dinner on February 19th at the O'Brien Center, 5:30. The city and the school put on their budget presentations to for question and answer. And then Monday before voting day on March 3rd, on March 2nd, in the Performing Arts Center at the school, again, the city and the school will be presenting their budgets.
Perfect.
And then on March 3rd at the Senior Center on Barlow Street from
there you
7
go.
a.m. to 7 p.m.
That's definitely me with the bow. I like that. I like that.
We ask folks to please, please, please come out and vote.
Great. And also, don't forget, you can vote early at City Hall. You can get a mail-in ballot, many ways, and you can even register the same day. But we encourage people not to. But certainly, if that's all that's available, please, they should feel free to do that. So vote yes on March 3rd for the school budget. Yes.
And there will be a budget flyer that goes to every
Great.
household in Winooski the middle of February that will have all of this information that we just talked about in it.
Super. And you have plenty of opportunities to also come to more presentations about it and ask questions. So all available, I assume, on the website. People can find all that information out. So fantastic. Thank you both so much for joining me tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
having
don't
us.
forget to vote on March 3rd, Town Meeting Day. And thanks so much for joining us.